Welcome to Backstage with Richard Ridge. My guest is an Obie Award-winning actor, writer, director, producer, and teaching artist. He is now one of the stars of Jeff Augustin's new play, Where the Mountain Meets the Sea, which is part of Manhattan Theater Club's new season and is currently playing at New York City Center's Stage 1. Under the direction of Joshua Kahan Brody, the play tells the story of Jonah and Jean, a son and father who struggled to connect. It follows Jonah as he makes the journey his father, a Haitian immigrant, made from Miami to California in reverse. The road trip made years apart give the two a connection that helps them finally find a common ground. And my guest plays Jonah. Please say hello to Chris Myers.
Hi, thank you so much for that lovely introduction.
Well, first off, how are you and where are you?
I'm in a corner of my apartment, the only corner I can find with bare walls. And I'm good. I'm great. We have our last preview tonight, so it's kind of one section of our ongoing work will be completed, and then tomorrow another one will begin.
I mean, how exciting is this? I mean, audiences are loving this show. It's such a heartfelt play with music. And I mean, you've gone through the preview process and you're getting ready to for opening night. How excited are you about opening night?
I'm really excited, but I have to say, this play, first of all, I'm excited for opening night because I've never wanted to celebrate a play more. This is a very intimate piece, and we've kind of created our own little bubble, our own little world. And I personally have been keeping my head down. So I'm actually really excited to celebrate and, be festive around it. But at the same time, it's the kind of play where I do kind of enjoy keeping to my own little bubble. It's for people come see it. It really is intimate, and I don't know, the line between opening and previews and even rehearsal is very blurry for me. It just feels like it's an ongoing process, and then one day I'll look up and they'll be like, "Your contract's over," and I'll be like, "Oh wow, that ended." So it's also just kind of like an ongoing thing. Yeah.
So, when you first read the play, what were your initial reactions and what made you say, yes, I have to do this?
Hmm. Well, I've never read anything like it before. I mean, I've worked with Jeff before, so I know his work very well. I know and I respect his writing very much. But even for him, I hadn't read anything like this. And my number one thing with acting, especially in the theater, where I feel like a little more experience, is I want to be challenged. I want something that feels new and different and will make me grow, force me to grow as an actor and as a person. And this fulfilled both of those marks. So I just, Jonah goes on a journey, and I was like, I want to go on this journey too.
Well, talk about who you play and what you love about him already. What makes him so
Mm.
unique?
Yeah, I played Jonas. So there's four performers in the play. Two of them are the Bangsons, which are a band, but the only people who talk and tell and act in the kind of traditional sense is me and Billy Eugene Jones, who plays my father, Jean. So I play Jonah, and and yeah, I mean, there's some overlap with me in my personal life. It's really refreshing. I remember I told Jeff there's not a lot of exciting stuff for people in their early 30s. I feel like, there's a lot of like young adult material out there in the world, and there's like when 40s and up, people start divorce dramas and stuff like that. But there's like the 30s kind of gets overlooked, and he wrote this really complex story of kind of millennial young adults in a way that I guess it's a weird type of age representation, felt a lot of commonality, but there's also a lot of differences. And yeah, just living up to his truth, and trying to get into the little corners and pockets of his emotional life has been really revealing. Both, I think a lot about my friends, I think about my family, I think about just people I know, and it helps me be more empathetic to them. So yeah, it's just such a deeply human, rich, what's the word? I don't know. There's something for everybody, and certainly for me, there's something in doing it every night that helps me kind of like be a better person.
Yeah. Now, talk about sharing the stage with Billy. Because it's just primarily the two of you that talk during the show. I mean,
Hmm.
it's your journey, the two of you together. What's it
Yeah.
like sharing the stage with him?
Well, I've respected his work for a long time, and he's been on a tear, especially these past couple of years, doing some of the best plays in New York consistently, like just hopping from one best play in New York to the next best play in New York. So when I saw that he was cast, I was like, well, this is a good sign, for us. We can maybe keep up his hot streak. But no, he's also just immensely talented, and we do very little interaction in the play, without like spoiling too much, even though we're both on stage the entire time. But just being in this space with him, being in the rehearsal room with him is incredibly motivating and inspiring. We play off each other, I think, in terms of what we bring to our respective processes, which are different. Every actor has a different process, but just watching him work is like makes me want to like step up my game.
And then working with your director and Jeff, like being in the room together, there's nothing better than working on a new play with an exciting playwright, an exciting director. I mean, what's it been like working on this and creating this all together?
One of the best rehearsal rooms I've ever been in. Jeff and Josh, our director and writer, have a great friendship, long-standing friendship, and a professional relationship. So they were really in sync on that. And then our dramaturg is our director's wife. And then the Bankstons were our married couple that met through, I think, Jeff or Josh, I forget which one, but everybody like kind of like knows each other, and that was good. And Josh especially just, I think, intentionally wanted to create the kind of rehearsal process, the kind of working space where you could really just say whatever you're thinking and kind of put an idea in the room and it would be respected. He wasn't looking for some kind of dominance of the room. So you have all these creative artists who are talented, who like each other, who feel safe enough to speak freely, and you just have this really rare, kind of beautiful kind of process. And so everything, organic is it's kind of cliche word, but it felt like an organic process where we moved from one step to the next without tension or friction, but just kind of building off of each other. Really, really nice. Yeah.
Yeah. And talk about the music by the Bengtsons. I mean, it's so beautifully intertwined in this play.
Yeah. Yeah. All I can tell you that, it's like, I don't really listen to folk music. So I will say, like, to be honest, when I first got this, I was like, oh, folk music, like, why they gotta. But when you hear them play, and I say that, I can only say that because the following is also true. From the very first note, from the very first lyric, from the very first whatever, you will fall in love with the Bankstons. They're incredibly talented, and their music operates not just on a kind of beautiful aesthetic level, but it operates on a beautiful human level. The writing and just where they pull their songs from is really rich and deep. So yeah, just to have that. And they also do like soundscaping at some parts of the play. They kind of add atmosphere, and that's stuff that I'm still realizing how nuanced that stuff is. Like night after night, I'm like, oh wow, I didn't know they did that. And you can kind of see how it goes. So they're just immensely talented, and they add so much. It wouldn't make sense. Like if you took the songs out of the play, it would kind of fall apart actually. And that's something that I didn't realize at first, but it's true. Like those songs are almost like little scenes in and of themselves.
See, that's what I love about this piece. I have never seen something like this where everything is intertwined to make this such a unique experience, yet it all blends together. It's like making the perfect cake. Yeah. It's like you said early on when you're like, oh, folk music, but you blend all of this stuff together and the evening is perfect, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what we're going for.
Yeah. The music, invokes memory, and I love that. Did music throughout your life invoke certain important parts of your life?
Yeah. No, I think I come from a household, nobody's a musician, but everybody in my family loves music. And so growing up, especially, important moments, there was always something playing. And so there's so many songs, so many genres that when I hear them, they take me back to a specific time. And that memory will have, certain sights, sounds, even smells that then come to the fore, and of course, feelings. So it is a powerful device. And I think in this play, it's kind of interesting. He didn't just willy-nilly pick folk music. I mean, there are some specifics to why these two characters, just like I said, Jonah kind of starts the play being suspicious of folk music himself, but then it kind of just becomes more important to his life. And also there's a historical connection where American folk music has found its way into Haiti proper, and some, you know, people there appreciate it on its own terms. So yeah, like you never know where that music will come from that will give you that emotional resonance through memory.
Yeah. Now, this is such a special play. Have you talked to friends or audience members after the show, and have they discussed with you the impact that this play and your performances have had on them?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of, you know, I've never had so many strangers kind of come up to me after a show and like just crying basically. And, you know, I've had people like ask me if they can hug me, and you know, of course, but it's interesting. I didn't write the play, you know, it's like I almost feel like I want Jeff to get some of that, you know, but yeah, no, people have really, you know, I think all you can hope for with the play is that people leave it and they take something away from it that is entirely specific to their lives, and then they do something about it. I mean, you can't, you know, the bad version of that is writing a play that tells people what to feel or tells people what to do, and we don't do that. It's a very specific story. um it's, you know, in part inspired by Jeff's actual life, and then he kind of pulled things in from other places. And like there's people who are completely different from Jeff and completely outside of the kinds of people that are mentioned in the play, who come away being like, I have to call my mom, I have to change my life, I need to tell you that that was my story. And that's just like the most ideal kind of outcome, if you ask me.
Because isn't it great when plays do this and move audiences where afterwards they, you know, the conversation continues into their life,
Yeah.
and you know, art can help change, like, oh my god, I wasn't going to call my father, I wasn't going to call my mother, or I wasn't going to take that extra step to do something that would change everything for the better, and that a play like this does that.
Yeah, yeah, it's special. And few other things can do that, because, you know, look, therapy is expensive
Yeah.
and it takes time. And, you know, there's all these other kind of barriers to getting at this kind of experience. But you can also buy a ticket to a play, one off, it's just in and out. This one's not even an hour and a half. And you walk away and you have enough of an experience to want to do something different in your life. Like that's what change is. Just, you know, we get acclimated to certain patterns and certain kind of expectations, and especially with family, right? We can go years, decades holding those patterns, and something happens in the theater where we say, actually, I want to disrupt that thing that I've done for years or decades. I mean, that's incredible.
Yeah. You know, Manhattan Theater Club produces such beautiful plays and works by exciting new artists, and they make it affordable too. And I think that's really important, because the day that I was at your show, there was a lot of young people there who are experiencing theater for the first time, or say, oh, I go a lot now because I go to MTC shows. You know, they make it affordable, and I get to see new writers. I mean, how exciting is it for you to be doing this play at Manhattan Theater Club?
Yeah, well, you know, I was just working with them on How I Learned to Drive a few months ago, I guess. And this, so to be back so soon is, you know, is a privilege. And I look forward to keep working, you know, getting to know their audiences more. But yeah, no, I mean, a lot of my friends, I tell them, if you're under 35, you can get $30 tickets whenever. And if not, you know, they give the cast like little codes and stuff like that, so we can get people in. The tricky part of, you know, audiences, since we're on the subject, is, and this is not an MTC thing, this is like in my experience having worked in like a dozen off-Broadway theaters, is how to get new audiences to be aware that these plays are happening. You know, it's like there's a large Haitian American community in New York City, and they're not necessarily, you know, reading the same periodicals, getting the same advertisements that other groups of folks in the city are. So it's like, how do we? It's like if a tree falls in the forest and nobody hears it fall, did it really fall? I always say no. I mean, I think people need to know that the tree fell. So, I mean, we also need to, like, you know, just get people to know that these plays are out there. And then, yeah, they're not expensive, which is a huge barrier removed as well.
Well, I love it. All people have to do, hopefully, is go to the MTC website, and all the information is there. But I always tell people, just dig a little, because you can find tickets, but I think this is a very important play, like I said, for the Haitian community who would love to come and see this. So I hope a lot of them are watching this at Broadway World or will push this to their friends and say, go see this play. I also love the dance elements
Mhm.
in this show. Of course, especially the I Was Too Late dance sequence. I mean, how did that come about? Talk about working on that.
Yeah, I mean, I always got to shout out our choreographer, Steph Paul. Steph is just really incredible. The first day Steph was in rehearsal, um, I mean, we had been working without her, as you do. Your choreographer comes in at a certain point, and the first question was like, what do you feel like your body wants to do in this moment? And I kind of whatever put together some gestures, and Steph is really good at like sculpting those gestures, and the dance has to tell a story. It's not just being free and wild and having fun. It should look like that, it should feel like that, but it actually has a larger kind of narrative purpose. And so she works from the specifics of the actor, and she kind of builds it along with some kind of boundaries and structure. And as a result, I mostly feel like I get to just have fun every night. But from the outside, it should appear to be part of a larger kind of moment for this character in his journey. But that's how Steph works, and I think that's it's playful, it's freeing, and it's something I also hope, because I think hopefully everybody, maybe not everybody, has had that moment where you dance like nobody's watching. And I think that's kind of like what that should feel like, where next time you're on the dance floor, just be a little more free, have a little more fun.
It's a really freeing moment in the show. And I think as an audience member, I felt that. I was like, oh my gosh, I know what he's feeling. I love that feeling.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Thank
That's
you.
really
Yeah.
great. You do a lot of TV and film, but you're also a teacher. You are currently, I think, on the faculty at the Harlem School of the Arts, where you are also artist in residence, and you're a teaching artist with the Classical Theater of Harlem, where you inaugurated the Actors Advocate Incentive. Intensive.
Intensive, yeah, yeah.
The Actors Advocate Intensive. What do you love the most about teaching, Chris?
Well, there's I don't know about the most. There's a number of things that I love about teaching. It's something I intend to do for the rest of my life, no matter where my career takes me. I always want to save time for teaching. I mean, look, the first most obvious thing is kind of selfish. You do learn from teaching. So in working with other people, I do feel like, I improve myself. But really, it's mostly a give back, because it's not something I try to do currently as like a career choice. It's really rewarding to help specifically young artists. Actually, I work with artists of all ages, to be honest, to help artists discover their potential to be creative, to free themselves, specifically through performance, like acting, where we do perform in our lives all the time. Just like I was saying about patterns, we follow these strict performances of, this is how I am when I go to work, this is how I perform when I'm with my family. And acting, we can access different sides of ourselves that were there all along. Sometimes we don't even know are there. So it's incredibly rewarding, because I work with actors, some who have no intention of pursuing a career. They just want to act as hobbyists. I also help younger students, get into like NYU Tisch grad and like top acting programs, which is very rewarding, and helping folks start their careers. But I also work with folks in like I've worked in juvenile prisons, and I've worked in community centers, and I've worked with people who just, like kids really, who just need perspective on their life, who just need a fork in the road to, not to pursue acting, but just to kind of realize they can experience joy in a different kind of way. So there's so many reasons, and yeah, that's why I do it.
No, because I've spoken to a lot of people who said, a lot of people come to me, and Richard, it just opens them up to a whole new world, and they can have a one-on-one conversation with the person now. They never realize, oh, this is how it's done. You just free them a bit, right? To like life and everything else. Like you said, even if they don't pursue something in the arts, but the arts are a learning tool for life in general. And I'm sure, when I looked at your bio and realized all the wonderful places that you have taught, I said, wow, it's such a diverse and large, different group of people that you're helping. So I'm sure it's just so rewarding for you to know that you've helped people to move on some way in their life, if it's a career or just a life lesson.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I see acting
Yeah.
at its best, like this show is actually an act of service. And I think for me, my teaching work is also that, and it's just how I kind of have to live my life. I can't do it all for me, you know.
You have so many exciting projects that you've worked on and continue to work on. You have something new coming out, don't you, on TV or something, or a new film? What's happening for you? What are you out?
No, well, I think my website might be a little out of date. The newest thing is actually probably not on there, but it's a Audible original. So for most folks know Audible for their audiobooks and stuff, and but now they're doing like original content. So like audio plays essentially. And the writer Nick Jones, who is a hilarious writer who's had a number of plays done off Broadway, but also writes for TV, has penned this kind of cancel culture satire called Complicity Island. And I'm really interested to see how people are going to receive it because it's, cancel culture is a hot topic. But he's managed to make something incredibly funny and I think deeply truthful, not so much about cancel culture, but about human beings. And I think that's coming out in what is it, November 1st? I think
Yep.
like in a month or something like that. I'm doing some press event on Friday for it. So yeah.
You work with so many exciting projects on TV and film. I love to ask stage actors because you're a stage beast. I've seen you do so much stuff, and you have worked with some of the greatest companies and some of the greatest playwrights. Did you grasp filmmaking or the art of the camera easy for you? Was it a quick lesson for you? Or I've spoken to a lot of stars who are like, it was rough for me, like early on, because it was like, pull it back, pull it back, pull it back. What was your experience like the first times working on film and TV?
Yeah, no, it definitely was. It definitely was an adjustment because I started training and doing theater stuff from a very young age, and so it's like second nature for me to know how to appear whatever, like small and natural, knowing that hundreds and hundreds of people will be watching me, including people who are very far away. And that's a kind of that is second nature to me. I know how to walk across the stage in a way that satisfies the requirements of blocking, but also looks like I'm a normal human being just going for a walk. When of course it actually isn't normal. It's very technical. And even walking on camera is very different. I love pointing out to people who aren't familiar, but it's like whenever you see a walking talk scene, people are walking incredibly slow. I mean, it's actually very hard to walk that slow, especially because you're trying to maintain distance from a camera. So both mediums have their kind of technical tricks that you have to make second nature. And I just had decades more experience because I started so young with the theater one over the camera one. But eventually you start to turn a corner and it becomes a fun game. And you kind of realize that your audience, instead of being this whole theater, is actually this little box right there, and you play to the audience, right? Which in this case is a camera. So eventually you kind of crack it, but yeah, it definitely threw me off in the beginning.
Was TV your first or film in front of a camera?
um, Probably TV. Yeah, I mean, professionally, at least professionally. Yeah.
Yeah. Because do you remember that? Do you remember what it was? Was it a guest star? Was it a TV
It
show?
definitely
Was
was a guest star, but now I have to think. Oh, I know. Yeah, it was in this show called The Breaks, which used to be on VH1. I think it only had a couple of seasons. It was about the origins of hip hop in New York, and I actually, because I was only a couple, like maybe 2 years out of school or something like that, but I ended up testing for like the lead. So I went all the way. I remember going to the Viacom building and very weird to do an audition in like a conference room for a bunch of executives and all that. That was very unnerving. But they gave it to the famous guy, and then they tossed me a guest star for the pilot as a kind of consolation prize. So that was my first one, I think. Yeah.
it's crazy because people they say, Richard, you go into this room and there's all these suits sitting there, and they're like, wait a minute, I'm used to auditioning for a casting director
Yeah.
and a director, and that's it. And then they're like, well, we don't know, we whatever. It's like it's got to be the weirdest thing, like a conference room at Viacom.
Yeah, because that was for the lead in a new series. So they really like brought everybody out, or rather brought you to everybody. Normally, you don't have to do all that, for your regular guest stars or recurrings or anything like that. But yeah, that was, I mean, I was very young, and that was my first time experiencing that, so it was pretty intense.
Well,
Besides just acting for the camera.
you've done some incredible stuff on stage and screen. But finally, if you could sum up the best part of the experience of working on this play, what is it for you, Chris?
Um, Best part. Well, it is. It's a two-sided thing. For one, artistically, it's deeply fulfilling. As I said, earlier, for me, I gravitate toward material that challenges me, and this challenges me every night to go deeper, to find new, you know, contours in kind of the character, and to hear new things in the place. Every night, I'm working as if it's rehearsal. Like every night I'm like still, and that's, you can't do that with some material. Some material is just kind of what you see is what you get, and you just kind of like, and it's unfortunate, but that's just the way it goes. But on the other side of that is, like I said, it's not about me. Knowing that I'm a part of something that touches people. There was one night, just the other night, this guy was like really like falling asleep. And I don't think it was us, right? I think it was clear this guy didn't get a good night's rest the night before. And he was in the front row, and that can be incredibly distracting. But I remember thinking, you never know how plays are going to affect someone. So just don't take it personal, keep going. And sure enough, he got his little, power nap in the first third of the play, and he was fully awake for the last 2/3. And after the play, he came up to me fully awake and was like, "That was so powerful. Thank you so much." Right. So even when people can't, they had a bender last night, whatever it was, their tank is depleted, the play can kind of like rejuvenate them. And then they're still going to get something from it and be grateful. And like, it's so much bigger than, it's always more than meets the eye. And knowing you're a part of a play that's more than meets the eye is just super rewarding. It's why I do this. So yeah, that's what it's been like.
That is beautifully put, because I think every show I have gone to for my entire career of seeing Broadway and off-Broadway shows, there's always somebody. Plays can be soothing, where all of a sudden someone sits in their seat and just gets caught up in the whole thing, shuts their eyes for 10 minutes or whatever, but then they wake up and they have the time of their life, right?
I mean, I've been in that place before, so yeah.
Well, like I said, I have really enjoyed this today, Chris, because I think the last time I spoke to you was opening night of How I Learned to Drive.
Well, yeah.
When you were at the Freedman, now you're at stage one. So, I mean, I love stage one too at Manhattan Theater Club. It's a beautiful theater.
It is.
It's really great. So, well, once again, Chris is one of the stars of MTC's new production of Jeff Augustin's play, Where the Mountain Meets the Sea. Chris, thank you for joining me today at Broadway World.
Thank you for having me. It's good to see you.
Now, listen, have an incredible opening night. All righty?
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And everyone, for all your theater coverage, look no further than Broadway World, and we'll see you at the theater. Take care, everyone. Take care, Chris.